If you're seeing this, welcome back, my loves. Tonight's story begins with a single choice, a choice that changes everything. She wanted one night of freedom before marrying a man she feared. A cruel man, a cold man, a mafia boss she'd never met, so she chose a stranger in a bar, not knowing she had chosen him. Settle in, dim your lights, and let yourself fall into this forbidden moment. Let's begin. I decided to lose my virginity the same night I decided to ruin my life. That sounds dramatic, I know, but that's exactly how it felt when I slipped out of my father's house with a stolen keycard and a pounding heart, knowing I was supposed to marry a stranger in 3 days. A cruel, ugly, cold, vicious stranger. At least that's how everyone described Brennon Farmagio to me. The car I'd bribed one of the guards to arrange dropped me 2 streets away from the bar. Not one of the fancy clubs my family usually rented out for deals. This place was smaller, darker, alive with a kind of wild noise that made my skin buzz. I tugged my black dress down over my thighs and stepped inside. Music hit me first, then heat, then the smell of whiskey and perfume and something fried in the back. No one looked twice at me. No one saw Mafia Princess written on my forehead. For the first time in my life, I was just a woman. I went straight to the bar before I could lose my nerve. Tequila, I told the bartender. Straight. He gave me a look, but he poured it. My hands shook as I knocked it back. Liquid fire burned down my throat and settled in my stomach, loosening something tight in my chest. Rough night? The voice slid over my skin like silk wrapped around steel. I turned my head and saw him. He sat 2 stools away, glass of something dark in his hand, his body angled toward me like he'd been waiting. Jet black hair, a little messy, like he'd run his fingers through it, gray eyes that cut right through the dim light. Broad shoulders filling out a black shirt, tattoos creeping up his forearms and disappearing under the sleeves. Beautiful, dangerous. Completely wrong for a girl who was supposed to be a good little bride. I swallowed. You could say that. He didn't smile exactly. His mouth twitched like a smile was something rare he didn't give away easily. Celebrating, I added, because I needed to say something. Or saying goodbye. I haven't decided yet. To what? My freedom, I said, then laughed a little too loudly. Not that I ever really had it. He studied me over the rim of his glass. You're not from around here. Is it that obvious? Yes. His gaze moved from my heels up to my hair. Slow, but not sleazy. Just thorough. You look like you came from a world that would burn this place down if they knew you were here. You have no idea, I thought. Another shot appeared in front of me. I hadn't ordered it. That one's from me, he said. Maybe I shouldn't. I stared at it. I was already warm from the first. Maybe you should, he countered, voice quiet. You look like you came here to do something you'll regret if you overthink it. My chest squeezed. He was right. I picked up the shot. To bad decisions, I said. He clinked his glass against mine. To honesty. We drank. I felt braver, or maybe just reckless. He set his drink down. So, who are you saying goodbye to exactly? Myself. I exhaled, then shook my head. No, that's not true. I'm saying goodbye to the version of me who thought she could choose her own life. He didn't answer right away, just waited. My wedding is in 3 days, I blurted. His jaw ticked, just slightly. Congratulations. It's an arranged marriage. I stared at the sticky bar top. To a man I've never met. Silence stretched between us. The music seemed to fade, just a little. And tonight, he said slowly, you decided to come here. Why? I turned toward him fully. It was insanity, what I was about to say. But this was a stranger in a bar, and I was tired of swallowing everything I felt. Because I don't want to walk down that aisle as a virgin. His eyes darkened. Not with lust, not exactly. With understanding. I pushed on before I could chicken out. Because I'm supposed to marry a cruel, ugly, cold, vicious man. That's how everyone talks about him. Like a monster. Like I'm a sacrificial lamb. And my throat closed around the words. He watched me without interrupting. I want one night that's mine, I whispered. One night where I'm not Fae Trintiano, Mafia bargaining chip. I want to choose. Just once, before they choose everything else for me. His fingers tightened around his glass. The muscle in his jaw jumped again. What's his name? He asked. I gave a small, bitter laugh. Brennon Farmagio. Something shifted in his eyes then. A flicker. A flash of something sharp. It was so fast I thought I imagined it. You don't like your fiancé, he said. It wasn't a question. I hate him, I said. Honest and childish and unfair. I hate what he represents. I hate that he probably doesn't even care who I am. I'm just an asset. His gaze pinned me. And what are you looking for instead? With this one night. I should have been embarrassed. I wasn't. The tequila and the ache inside me had burned the shame away. I want a man who looks at me like I'm not just a transaction, I said. I want someone's hands in my hair because he wants me, not because he owns me. I want to be kissed like it means something, even if it's just for a few hours. The air between us thickened. His eyes dipped to my mouth, then back to my eyes. Careful, little lamb, he murmured. You don't know who you're inviting in. Maybe I don't care. I shot back. He laughed once, low. You should. We sat like that, staring at each other, the bar blurring around us. Then he stood. Come with me, he said. My heart slammed. I don't even know your name. You don't have to, he said. You want one night. You want to choose. So choose, Faye. My name in his mouth made my skin prickle. I hadn't told him, but the bartender had earlier when I'd handed over my card. I hadn't realized he'd heard. He held his hand out. For a second, I saw my life like a set of doors. Behind one, obedience, the altar, the monster I'd been promised to. Behind the other, this man, this night, this leap. I slid my hand into his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and sure. We walked out of the bar together. Okay. Pause with me for a second. Before I tell you what happened when we got to his penthouse, the way his hands felt on my skin, the way I almost forgot my own name. Tell me something. Where in the world are you listening from right now? Your city? Your country? Type it in the comments. Then come back, because this is the part where I stopped being a good girl forever. His car was black and quiet and smelled like leather and something clean. I watched the city smear past the window in streaks of light, my pulse loud in my ears. He didn't touch me, didn't speak. But his presence filled the space between us. Are you afraid? He asked finally. Yes, I admitted, but not of you. He went still. You should be afraid of me. I looked at him. Are you going to hurt me? His eyes met mine. Not in the way you're thinking. The elevator ride up to his penthouse felt endless. My palms were damp. My heart wouldn't slow down. When the door slid open, I stepped into a space of glass and shadows and city lights. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Dark wood. Minimal furniture. No family portraits. No clutter. Just clean power. I turned in a slow circle. You live here alone? Yes. Good, I said, surprising myself. I don't want witnesses. I heard his low chuckle behind me. Then his hand was on my waist. Not rough? Not demanding? Just there. Warm. Solid. Last chance to change your mind, he murmured at my ear. I shivered. I'm not changing my mind. He turned me to face him. His gray eyes searched my face like he was checking for lies. Say it, he said quietly. Tell me what you want. My throat was dry. My voice wasn't steady, but I spoke anyway. I want tonight. With you. I want you to touch me like I'm not a deal. I want you to kiss me until I forget his name. I want to remember this when I'm standing at that altar. Something dark and hungry flared in his eyes. Then his hand slid up my spine, into my hair, tilting my head back. His mouth came down on mine. The first kiss stole the air from my lungs. He was careful at first, like he was giving me a chance to decide. His lips moved over mine slowly, testing, coaxing. My hands flew to his chest, fingers curling into his shirt. Heat rushed through me, sharp and overwhelming. I made a small sound, one I didn't recognize, and that was all it took. His restraint snapped. His other hand tightened on my waist, pulling me flush against him. The city, the wedding, the fear, everything dropped away until there was only his mouth, his breath, the way he tasted like whiskey, and something purely him. He walked me backward until my shoulders hit the wall. The impact was gentle, but the feeling of being pinned there, of his body caging mine, sent a wild thrill through me. His lips left my mouth to trail along my jaw, down to my neck. When he kissed a spot just under my ear, my knees nearly gave out. My breath hitched. "I don't know what I'm doing," I whispered. "Yes, you do," he murmured against my skin. "You're choosing." His fingers tangled deeper in my hair, holding me still as his mouth mapped the curve of my throat. Every brush of his lips, every scrape of his teeth lit me up from the inside. My hands slid up, over the ridges of his shoulders, feeling the strength there, the heat of his skin through the thin fabric. I clutched him closer like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting under my feet. "Tell me to stop," he said, voice rough. "I won't," I breathed. "Fae!" I opened my eyes. Met his. There was warning there. And something like vulnerability. I swallowed hard. "I want this. I want you. I know what I'm doing." His gaze held mine for a long, burning second. "Then tonight," he said, "you're mine. No monsters. No deals. Just us." My heart answered before my head could catch up. And there, with my back to his wall and his hands on my body, I made the choice that would change everything. I surrendered to the stranger I'd chosen, not knowing he was the man I had been promised to all along. I knew I was going to faint the second I saw him standing at the altar. Not because weddings made me emotional, or because the church was packed with my father's men watching me like hawks, or because the white silk dress felt like a prison stitched tight against my lungs. No, I nearly fainted, because the man waiting to marry me was the man from the bar, the man who had touched me like I was something precious, the man who had kissed me until I forgot my own name, the man I'd begged to help me forget my cruel, ugly, cold, vicious fiancé. My fiancé, Brennon Farmagio. He stood there in a black suit that looked carved into his body, broad shoulders stretching the fabric, tattoos peeking faintly above his collar like secrets pressed into his skin. His gray eyes found mine across the aisle with terrifying precision. Recognition. Hard, sharp, instant. He knew. My legs almost buckled. Someone behind me nudged. My father's quiet order. "Walk." I did. Somehow. Step by step, down the long aisle, my heart slamming so loudly I was sure everyone could hear. The flowers blurred. The candlelight stung my eyes. I felt like I was walking into a storm, one I'd created with my own stupid choices. His gaze never left me. Not once. I reached him. My hands trembled as I placed them in his. His skin was warm, familiar, too familiar. I snatched my breath back like it had betrayed me. He leaned in just enough that only I could hear him. "You ran from me," he murmured, voice low and controlled. "And you lied." My lungs locked. "I didn't know." "Oh, you knew enough," he whispered. "Enough to talk about me like I'm a monster. Enough to come looking for someone else." My stomach dropped so fast I almost collapsed. He straightened, expression smooth, groomed for the public. If anyone looked at him, they'd see the perfect groom, calm and collected. But I felt the storm underneath the surface, thrumming beneath his skin. The priest began to speak. I heard nothing. Brennon tightened his hold ever so slightly, not painfully, just firmly enough to remind me he was real. That this was real. That the man who'd held me against his wall and kissed my throat was now the man I was supposed to call husband. When it was time for vows, he delivered his like each word was etched in granite. No hesitation. No stutter. When it was my turn, I sounded like a girl pretending to be a woman. We exchanged rings. Cameras clicked. People sighed. It all felt like a dream I couldn't wake up from. And then it was done. We were married. He leaned close once more, his lips brushing my ear in a whisper that chilled me. We're leaving. Now. Before I tell you what he said the second those church doors closed, the thing that made my knees shake for an entirely different reason, do one thing for me. Tell me in the comments. Are you new here? What made you click on this video? I also want to know where you are while I drag you into this train wreck of a wedding day. Okay? Ready? Because it gets worse. The second the limousine door shut behind us, the mask fell off him. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't even look away from me. That was somehow worse. You went looking for a stranger, he said quietly, when you were promised to me. My throat tightened. I didn't know who you were, Brennon. I wasn't told anything. And what exactly did you tell that stranger about me, he asked. Repeat it. Shame crawled up my spine. I stared at my hands twisted in my lap. I said you were cruel, and cold, and ugly, and vicious. He finished for me. I remember. I flinched. I didn't know it was you. He leaned back against the leather seat, eyes pinning me in place. You told me you wanted someone to touch you like you mattered. His voice dropped, becoming something dangerous in its calm. And I did. My breath snagged. And then, he continued, you slipped out of my bed before sunrise and walked into my church like a stranger. I shook my head, hurting, confused. I never meant to lie to you. Not about that night. Not about anything. His jaw flexed. But you did. Silence pressed between us, thick and suffocating. The car turned sharply toward the estate, the guards, motorcycles flanking us like a moving wall. I felt trapped in more ways than one. Is this where you punish me? I whispered. His head snapped toward me so fast I jolted. No, he said, voice low and fierce. I don't punish women for wanting freedom. That surprised me enough to look up. But make no mistake, he added. You and I will be having a very honest conversation about what you want and what you're running from. Heat curled low in my stomach at the way he said want. I hated that reaction. I hated how my body remembered his hands, even when my brain screamed at me to forget. I hated how safe I'd felt when he held me that night. I was supposed to hate him. Instead, I was sitting beside him in a wedding dress, wondering if the worst mistake of my life was also the best night I'd ever had. The limo slowed, pulling through iron gates and climbing a long stone driveway. A mansion loomed ahead. Dark wood, tall windows, and security everywhere. Guards, cameras, motion sensors. Prison disguised as luxury. The door opened. Brennon stepped out first. Then he held out his hand to me. Not a request. A command softened into politeness. I placed my fingers in his, feeling the spark that shot through me. He didn't react, but his grip tightened just enough to say he felt it too. As we walked inside, surrounded by men in suits pretending not to stare, Brennon leaned in and whispered, We need to talk. I swallowed. About what? He stopped walking, turned, looked directly into my eyes. About the fact, he said, that you were mine before that night. His voice lowered. And now you're mine in every way that matters. My pulse fluttered. Dangerous man. Dangerous words. Dangerous truth. I had no idea what waited for me in that house, only that it wasn't safety, and it wasn't freedom. It was Brennon Farmagio, and I was his wife. He locked the bedroom door behind us without looking at me. The click of the lock sounded louder than the church bells had. My back hit the edge of a dresser. I grabbed it to steady myself, my wedding dress fanning around me like a white explosion. The room was big and beautiful. Too big, with a 4-poster bed and floor-to-ceiling windows and soft lamps casting a golden glow. I didn't care about any of it. I cared about the man who had just turned to face me. Brennon shrugged off his jacket, tossed it onto a chair, and started undoing his cufflinks. He moved slow, deliberate, like this was just another meeting. Another deal. My lungs forgot how to work. Say whatever you're going to say, I blurted, because silence was worse. Shout, threaten, whatever you do, just do it. He arched one dark brow. That's what you think of me? You're Brennon Farmagio. I said, like that explained everything. What am I supposed to think? He set the cufflinks down on the nightstand with a soft clink. Funny, he said. That night, you didn't say my name like it was a curse. Heat shot up my neck. I didn't know it was your name. No, he agreed. You just knew my hands, my mouth. His eyes darkened. My bed, I flinched. Don't do that. Do what? Use it against me. His jaw tightened. For a second, something almost like hurt flickered across his face, then vanished. I'm not the one who used anything, he said quietly. I didn't creep into that bar looking for a stranger to bleed my fear onto. That was you, Fae. My fingers dug into the wood of the dresser. I told you the truth. I told you everything. I told you my fiancé was a monster. I was honest. You were honest, he said, with the man you thought wasn't him. The words landed like a slap. I swallowed hard. I didn't know it was you. He moved closer, each step measured. I recognized you the second you walked in. I blinked. That's not possible. We've never met. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to see his eyes. Your father sent me a photo of you months ago? My stomach dropped. What? For security. For protocols. This is the girl you're getting, he said, mimicking my father's voice without softening it. I saw your face before I ever touched it. My pulse roared in my ears. So when I walked into that bar and saw you sitting there, alone, drinking cheap tequila in a dress that wasn't meant for places like that, his gaze dropped over me. You think I didn't know exactly who you were? I shook my head dizzy. You still let it happen. You still took me home. His eyes flashed. You wanted me to. Yes, I whispered. I did. I didn't know you were. You're a monster. His lips curved, but there was no humor in it. The cruel, ugly, cold, vicious man. Hearing my own words in his mouth made my cheeks burn. I never said ugly, I muttered before I could stop myself. His brows lifted. For a split second, the air shifted between us. Then my shame flooded back. I shouldn't have said any of it. I was scared. And you didn't think to be scared of the stranger who offered you a drink? He asked. The one whose last name you didn't even know? I was tired of being scared of people who already owned me. I snapped. I wanted one thing that was mine. He went still. Then, softly, and was last night yours? The memory hit me so hard, my hand tightened on the dresser. His mouth on my neck. His hands in my hair. The way he'd looked at me like I was something he'd been searching for without knowing. Yes, I said, voice barely audible, until I walked into that church. Hold on. Before I tell you the exact moment he told me someone had been following me that night, the part that made me realize I wasn't just foolish, I was a target. Do something for me. Tell me, are you invested in this story? What do you think will happen next? Type it in the comments, because if you're still here after what he says next, you're officially in this mess with me. Brennon exhaled, long and slow, like he was trying to calm himself. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and tapped the screen a few times. The glow lit up his face, throwing shadows across his cheekbones. He skimmed something, jaw tightening. What is it? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He put the phone face down on the dresser next to my hand. That night, he said, you didn't just slip past your father's guards. A cold chill crawled up my spine. What do you mean? My men were watching the area, he said. They picked up a tail on you. Someone followed your car from your family's compound to the bar, stayed 2 tables behind you while you drank, left before we did. The room seemed to tilt. What? My fingers went numb. No one said anything. No one. Why would they? His voice was flat. You were bait, whether you knew it or not. And whoever was watching you didn't make a move. Not that night. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. You knew someone was following me and you still. I brought you with me, he cut in, eyes flaring. Into my car. Into my world. Where I could protect you. You were safer in my bed than you were at that bar. My face burned, but fear pushed past the embarrassment. Who was it? We're still finding out. His gaze searched mine. But my guess. A rival family. Someone with an interest in hurting your father. Or me. Because of the alliance, I whispered. Because of our marriage. Because of you, he corrected. I stared at him. Me. You're not a parcel, Fae, he said. You're leverage. You're the thing they threaten to get to the men who think they own you. The word leverage made my stomach twist. I didn't know, I said. It sounded weak, like an excuse. That's the problem. He stepped closer, bracing his hands on either side of the dresser, effectively caging me in. His body didn't touch mine, but I felt him everywhere. You walked into a random bar alone, in a city where your last name paints a target on your back, he said. You told a stranger everything about your life. You were willing to go home with him without knowing who he was. He felt safe, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. His eyes burned. He was safe, because he was me. That's the only reason you're standing here right now and not in the trunk of some idiot's car. My breath hitched. I didn't realize. No. His voice softened, just barely. You didn't. That's on your father. On the men who kept you locked away and never taught you what danger really looks like. He paused, eyes moving over my face like he was memorizing it. But now you know, he said. I swallowed. So what happens now? For a moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioning and my own uneven breathing. Brennon straightened enough to give me space, but not enough to let me escape. Now, he said, you're my wife, which means you don't disappear from me. Not for air, not for tequila, not for one last night of pretending you're free. His hand lifted, fingers brushing my jaw. Just a whisper of contact, but it sent a shiver through me. From this moment on, he said quietly, you don't go anywhere without me or my men. You don't slip out of houses. You don't take random cars. You don't walk into bars alone. Do you understand me? The command in his voice rubbed against every rebellious part of me. I thought you said you don't punish women for wanting freedom, I murmured. His thumb slid along my cheekbone, the touch achingly gentle in contrast to his words. This isn't punishment, Fae. This is protection. And if I don't want your protection? I asked. His gaze darkened. Too late. Anger and fear and something hot and confusing tangled inside me. I don't like cages, I said. Good, he replied. Neither do I. He let his hand fall, stepping back at last. The space he left behind felt cold. We'll talk more tomorrow, he said, turning toward the door that led to the bathroom. Tonight, get out of that dress. Rest. You're safe here. He started to walk away. Brennon, I blurted. He stopped. I swallowed, fingers bunching in the silk at my hips. That night, was it just you taking an opportunity? Or was it real? He finished. I nodded, throat tight. He didn't turn around. His voice came out low, rough around the edges. That night, he said, was the first time in a long time something didn't feel like business. My chest ached. And today? I asked. He hesitated only a heartbeat. Today? He said, you became my responsibility. The bathroom door shut behind him with a soft click. I stood in the middle of our wedding night suite, heart racing, dressed too tight, head spinning with the knowledge that someone wanted me as a weapon, and that the only person standing between me and that danger was the man I'd called a monster before I ever really knew his name. The wedding suite doors shut behind us with a thud that felt too final, like someone had locked me inside a life I couldn't escape. Brennon didn't touch me as he walked me through the foyer. He didn't have to. His presence hovered behind me like a shadow that knew my every thought. His men flanked the hallways, nodding to him, staring at me like I was a living contract, a breathing alliance. I kept my spine straight, refusing to let them see how my hands shook. This way, Brennon said, his voice calm, unreadable. He led me through a long corridor lined with framed black and white photos of places I didn't recognize. New York, Sicily, old cities with narrow streets and stone walls. Not a single one showed a person. No family. No memories. Just landscapes, like he wanted proof the world was bigger than whatever cage he'd grown up in. He stopped in front of a pair of double doors. Your room, not ours. A tiny, ridiculous ache hit me. He pushed the doors open, revealing a beautiful space. Cream walls, soft lighting, a massive bed with dark wood posts, a balcony that overlooked the gardens. It was the type of room any bride would dream of stepping into on her wedding night. Except nothing about tonight felt like a dream. Everything felt like a tightening rope. I walked inside, running my fingers along the edge of the bed to ground myself. It's beautiful. It's secure, he corrected. Right. Of course it wasn't about beauty. I turned to him. You're not sleeping here? No. Because you're angry? Because I'm giving you space. He paused. And because if I don't, I won't give you any space at all. My breath hitched. The way he said it, quiet, controlled, felt like a warning he didn't want to be giving. He stepped back. Dinner is at 8. My sister will be joining us. Sister? I repeated. You have a sister? His expression softened just enough to surprise me. You'll like her. Then the softness vanished, swallowed by something colder. Stay in this wing until Arturo assigns you your detail. Detail? Security. Of course. I lifted my chin. You think someone will come for me here? He met my eyes. I think someone already has tried. A tremor ran through me. He opened the door to leave. Change, rest, and don't wander. Because you'll punish me? I said before I could stop myself. He faced me fully then, eyes turning stormy. No, because someone else will. The door clicked shut, and I was alone. The room felt too big, too quiet, too heavy with everything unsaid. I peeled myself out of the wedding dress, the satin stuck to my skin, and stood in front of the mirror in nothing but a slip. The girl staring back at me didn't look like a wife or a Mafia princess or whatever title I was supposed to be wearing. She looked scared and small, and like she didn't belong here. I wandered to the balcony, opening the doors just enough to let the warm breeze wash over me. The gardens below stretched into shadows, lit by soft lamps and moonlight glinting off the fountains. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, something prickled at the back of my neck. Movement. Near the far hedges. A figure. Dark. Still. Watching. My breath froze. I stepped back, gripping the balcony door. Squinted. The figure took one slow step forward. My pulse spiked. Hello? I whispered, even though I knew that was stupid. A light flicked on behind me. Fae! I spun around. Brennon stood in the doorway to my room. Jacket off. Sleeves. Rolled, tension radiating off him like heat. His eyes scanned me first, hair messy, slip barely covering me, then darted to the balcony. He moved past me in 3 strides. What did you see? He demanded. There was someone, I stammered. By the hedges. He didn't doubt me. He didn't hesitate. He just grabbed the radio clip to his belt. North Garden. Movement. Check it. A crackle. Then a voice. On it, boss. He turned back to me, stepping closer than he needed to. Close enough I could feel the storm in him. Don't go out there alone. Not even for air. Not even for a second. I wasn't going out, I whispered. I just saw something. His jaw flexed. Good. You tell me before you make a move. That's how you stay alive. Alive. God, was that really the bar now? I didn't ask for this, I said, voice shaking before I could steady it. I know, he said quietly. Neither did I. Something softened in his gaze, just for a heartbeat. Then he stepped back, and I remembered to breathe. Dinner was served in a smaller dining room. Small, meaning only 30 seats and chandeliers I couldn't look directly at without feeling poor. When I walked in, Brennon was already seated at the head of the table. A woman stood beside him, maybe a year or 2 younger than me, with long dark hair, warm brown eyes, and a smile that actually made me exhale. This is my sister Liana, Brennon said. She stepped forward immediately, pulling me into a hug I wasn't prepared for. Welcome to the family, she said softly. I'm so glad you're here. I blinked hard. Thank you. She smelled like citrus and something floral. Nothing like the cold cologne that clung to every corner of this house. We took our seats. Me beside Brennon, Liana across. The table was covered with dishes I didn't recognize, but they smelled incredible. You don't have to try everything, Liana said, piling food on my plate anyway. But if you don't try Nana's ravioli, she'll haunt you. I smiled. I liked her instantly. Even Brennon's shoulders seemed less tense with her here. So, Liana said brightly, the wedding was beautiful, even if it was rushed, and secretive, and weird. Liana, Brennon warned. She waved a hand. Oh, please, I'm allowed to say it. Her eyes flicked to me. Did you know he pushed the wedding up? My fork paused. What? Brennon stiffened. Liana. She blinked at me, confused. He didn't tell you? My stomach dropped. Tell me what? Liana looked between us, suddenly realizing she'd stepped into something sharp. She lowered her voice. He moved the wedding date 3 months earlier. My heart slammed. Why? Liana hesitated. Because someone threatened your life. The blood drained from my face. Brennon closed his eyes. Just for a second. Like he'd wanted to tell me. Like he hated that his sister had done it first. The air in the room shifted. Cold, heavy, dangerous. Brennon, I whispered. Is that true? He didn't lie. He didn't soften the truth. He looked me directly in the eyes and said yes. My entire world tipped. What kind of threat? I asked, voice breaking. The kind I wasn't willing to risk, he said. My fingers curled around the tablecloth, knuckles white. And marrying me sooner protects me? I asked. It puts you under my name, he replied. Under my guard. Under my roof. Under my control, I thought. But another part of me whispered something else. Under his protection. Liana reached across the table and touched my hand. He did it to keep you safe, Fae. But safe suddenly felt like another word for trapped. And as Brennon held my gaze across the table, gray eyes steady, unreadable, I understood something I hadn't before. This marriage wasn't just a deal. It was a shield. And shields only existed when someone was trying to make you bleed. I swallowed hard. A rival family. A threat. A shadow in the garden. Someone wanted me. Or wanted to use me. And the only man standing between me and that danger was the same man I had once called a monster before I ever knew the truth. Brennon didn't speak to me for 2 days. Not a word. Not a nod. Not a glance that lasted more than half a second. And somehow that silence hurt more than any threat he could have thrown at me. He filled the house with security, with his men whispering into radios and patrolling the halls, but he left the space between us cold. Sterile. Like I'd become a risk he wasn't sure how to handle. I tried to keep busy, tried to keep my head down, but the truth was, I kept replaying everything. Liana's unintentional confession, the shadow in the garden, the stranger at the bar who turned out to be my husband. I avoided Brennon as much as he avoided me. But on the 3rd morning, I walked into the kitchen and found him standing there, shirt sleeves rolled, tattoos on display, a mug of coffee in his hand. Sunlight spilled over him, painting him in gold. He looked up. Our eyes met. The mug hit the counter a little harder than necessary. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Stay. My feet froze. I forced myself to turn back around. You haven't spoken to me in 48 hours. I know, he said calmly. I needed to think. About what? You. Something stupid fluttered in my chest. I folded my arms. Did your thinking lead you to the silent treatment? Because if so... His head snapped up. Don't start. Don't start? I repeated, anger flaring. You're the one acting like I betrayed you. You did betray me. My breath caught. How? He didn't even hesitate. You chose a stranger over me. You chose him for your first time. For your freedom. Heat rose behind my eyes. He wasn't a stranger, I whispered. He was you. That's not the point, he said sharply. You didn't want me. You wanted anyone who wasn't me. That's not fair. Neither is the world you stepped into. We stared at each other across the kitchen, breathing hard. Finally, he dragged a hand through his hair. Fae, you said things about me that were based on lies, I snapped. You think I would have said any of that if I'd known who you were? You think I would have walked into that bar if I knew someone wanted to hurt me? His jaw clenched. No. You would have stayed locked in your father's gilded cage. And you'd still be untouched, unhappy, unaware. You're not my keeper. He stepped toward me. And you're not a prisoner. Then stop acting like I am. He stopped 2 feet away from me, chest rising and falling. Something shifted in his expression. The anger didn't disappear. It melted, softened, like someone had cracked the edge of it and let something warmer slip through. Come here, he said quietly. I didn't move. Why? Because we need to talk. Really talk. And I'm done shouting across rooms. My heart rattled against my ribs as I stepped closer. When I was finally within his reach, he lowered his voice. I'm angry, he said, because I wanted that night to matter. And it did. But not for the reasons you think. My throat tightened. Then tell me the reasons. He looked at me, really looked, and something raw flickered across his eyes. You were the first thing in months that didn't feel like business, he whispered. You were the first thing I wanted. Warmth rushed through me so suddenly I felt dizzy. Then why avoid me? I asked. Because I didn't want to take that anger out on you, he said. I needed distance to control it. And now? He hesitated. Now I'm not sure distance helps anything. I stepped closer. Then stop running from me. His breath caught slightly, the smallest crack in his armor. Fae, he warned. What? I whispered. Tell me. But before he could speak, the back door burst open. Arturo, the head of Brennon's security, stormed in, looking furious. Boss, we have a problem. Brennon stiffened, but his hand brushed my lower back, steadying me before he fully turned. What happened? He asked. There was movement near the west fence again, Arturo said. Same figure from 2 nights ago. My skin prickled. Brennon's entire energy changed. Frozen, lethal, controlled. Find him. I want eyes on every entry point. Arturo nodded and hurried out. Brennon faced me again, the protective intensity blazing through him. You're not leaving my sight, he said. I opened my mouth to argue, but he cut me off. I'm not negotiating. I closed my mouth, not because he was commanding me, because fear was warming the back of my neck like cold breath. Someone was watching me. Again. Before I tell you what happened when Brennon finally confronted me in the library, the moment where he said something I absolutely was not prepared to hear, do one thing for me. Tell me, who do you think is watching Fae? And what do they want? I also want to know where you are before I take you into the moment that changed everything between us. Ready? Brennon didn't let me out of his sight for the rest of the afternoon. Not while I walked through the hallways. Not while I sat in the study pretending to read. Not even while I ate lunch. He sat across from me, phone in one hand, eyes flicking up every few minutes to check the security feed. And it shouldn't have made me feel safer. But it did. By evening, he led me into the mansion's library, a huge room filled with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a fireplace, deep leather chairs. He shut the door behind us. I swallowed. Are we hiding? No, he said. We're talking. No interruptions. We stood, facing each other in the middle of the room, tension tight between us. He exhaled. Fae, I'm trying. At what? At being someone you don't run from. My breath stilled. I know what people say about me, he continued. I know what your father told you. I know what the world thinks a man like me is. Then, show me who you actually are, I whispered. His eyes softened in a way I hadn't seen before. I'm trying to. Then stop pushing me away, I said. Stop going silent. Stop assuming the worst of me. And you stop assuming I'm your enemy. he countered quietly. The words hit something deep and tender in me. We stood inches apart. His voice dropped lower. I don't want distance between us, not anymore. My pulse kicked. Then what do you want? His gaze dropped to my lips. To close the space you keep putting between us. Heat curled low in my stomach. I whispered, then do it. His breath caught, and in that quiet library, shelves full of books, fire crackling, my heart pounding loud enough to echo, I swore I saw a crack in his control. A small one, but enough. He stepped closer, so close that the air shifted around us, warming, tightening, pulling. Fae, he murmured, voice like gravel and velvet. Tell me you don't regret that night. I don't. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second, he inhaled sharply. And tell me, he said, his eyes locked on mine, that you're not afraid of me. I'm not, I whispered. Tell me, he said, even quieter, that you'll stop calling me a monster. My breath trembled. You're not one. Something flickered. Pain, relief, desire. A mixture of all three. He lifted his hand, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. A touch so gentle it broke something inside me. Then he whispered something that burned into me like fire. I want to earn you. The room spun. My knees weakened. My heart opened so fast it hurt. I stared at him, stunned and breathless. And for the first time since the wedding, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I hadn't married a monster at all, but a man who didn't know how to be anything other than dangerous and soft at the same time. A man who was trying. For me. The explosion shook the library wall before I heard the alarm. Books rattled on their shelves. Dust rained down from the ceiling. For one heartbeat, I just stared at Brennon, not understanding, my brain refusing to connect the sound and the vibration with something real. Then the sirens started. Sharp. Piercing. Angry. What was that? I gasped. Brennon was already moving. He grabbed my wrist. Not gentle, not rough, just firm, and yanked me toward the door. Stay behind me. Was that? Bomb, he said, voice calm in a way that made my stomach twist. Small. Perimeter. Move. He flung the library door open. The hallway pulsed with red emergency lights, flashing across the walls like the whole house had a heartbeat. Men were shouting into radios, boots pounding on marble. Secure the west side, someone yelled. We've got movement at the fence line. My feet stumbled to keep up with his long strides. Brennon, eyes forward, Fae, he ordered. We turned down a side corridor I hadn't seen before, past closed doors, and a painting slightly crooked from the blast. My heart pounded against my ribs so hard it hurt. Is this them? I asked. The same people watching the house? Probably, he said. They're escalating. And we're just walking? Shouldn't we be hiding or leaving? We're going somewhere safer than a hallway, he muttered. He pressed his palm flat against a section of wall that looked like every other. There was a beep, then a heavy click. A hidden door slid open, revealing a narrow set of stairs leading down. He glanced back at me. Go. I stared into the darkness. Down there. Yes. But. His hand squeezed my wrist, drawing my attention to his eyes. Fae. This is the safest room in the house. You go first. I'm right behind you. The sirens wailed on. The floor trembled again, just slightly, like another shockwave had rolled through the foundation. I swallowed hard and stepped onto the stairs. They were steel, cold under my bare feet. I gripped the rail, making my way down as fast as I could without falling, Brennon's presence a solid heat at my back. The door slid shut above us, muffling the noise to a dull roar. At the bottom, he brushed past me to enter a code on a keypad. Another door swung open with a hiss. The safe room was bigger than I'd expected, more like a bunker than a panic room. Low lighting, a couch, a table with maps spread across it, cabinets against one wall, a gun rack on another. It smelled faintly of metal and coffee. Brennon closed the door behind us with a heavy thunk. The sirens were almost gone down here. Just a muffled pulse in the distance. But my body still vibrated with leftover adrenaline. "Sit," he said, nodding at the couch. "I don't want to sit," I snapped. "I want to know what's happening." He strode over to a monitor on the wall, flicked a switch. Security feeds lit up the screen. Angles of the grounds, the gates, the walls, men running, lights flaring. "Perimeter breach," he muttered. "Outer grounds only." They knew where the weak points were. "Because of me?" I asked. His silence was answer enough. My knees went weak. I sank down onto the couch without meaning to. Hold on. Before I tell you what happened when the first gunshot echoed through the feed, the gunshot that made Brennon drag me into his arms like I was the only thing that mattered, do something for me. Tell me what you would have done in Faye's shoes. Keep it PG. I also want to know where you are while I'm down here in this safe room with my Mafia husband and the world cracking upstairs. Okay. Ready? Brennon spoke into a radio clipped to the table. "Report!" Arturo's voice crackled back. "Small device at the west wall, boss. More for noise than damage. They're probing. Shots fired from the tree line. No direct breach yet." "Casualties?" "None of ours. They're pulling back. Keep a team on the north and east. Rotate the rest. I want footage of every inch they touched." "Yes, sir?" The line went quiet. I stared at the screen. Men with guns. Shadows moving between trees. Smoke drifting over manicured grass like a stain. "This is because of me," I whispered. Brennon turned, leaning against the table. "We don't know that yet." "Yes, we do." I laughed, but it came out wrong, thin and shaky. "They never tried to hit your house before I got here, did they?" His jaw flexed. "Exactly." My throat burned. "I'm the weakness. I'm the leverage. You said it yourself." "You're a point of pressure," he corrected. "Not a weakness." "What's the difference?" "A weakness breaks you," he said. "A pressure point makes you move faster." I stared at him. "You really don't speak like a normal person, you know that?" His mouth twitched. Just barely. But then a sharp, distant pop came through the feed. Gunfire. Even muffled, it made my skin go cold. My breath hitched. I must have gone pale, because Brennon pushed away from the table and crossed the space between us in 3 long strides. His eyes searched my face, then dropped to my hands gripping the couch cushion. He sat down beside me, not at the other end, not leaving space, right next to me, so close our shoulders brushed. "You're safe," he said. "Are you sure?" I whispered, "because it sounds like—" "I'm sure," he said firmly. "They're testing the fence, testing my response time. They're not inside." "Yet," I muttered. His hand moved, slowly, giving me time to pull away if I wanted to, until his fingers curled around mine. I didn't pull away. His grip was warm, solid, steady. He didn't squeeze too tight, just enough to ground me. "When was the first time you heard gunfire?" he asked quietly. I blinked at him. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one," I swallowed. 12. My father took me to a business meeting. I heard it through a wall. I wasn't supposed to, but the sound, I shivered. "You don't forget that sound." "No," he said, "you don't." "Did it scare you the first time?" I asked. "Terrified me," he said, without hesitation. I looked at him, startled. His thumb brushed my knuckles, a tiny, absent motion that made my pulse flutter. I was 18. First time on a job that wasn't just standing around looking mean. Heard it crack through the air and realized this wasn't a movie. This was real. People don't get up again. Something about the way he said it, the rough edge to his voice, made my chest ache. "Why do you stay in it?" I asked. "The violence, the danger, all of it." His eyes lifted to the security feed for a second, then back to me. "Because if I'm not the one in control of it, someone worse will be." We sat in silence, his hand around mine, the world above us humming with danger. "Tell me about your tattoos," I said suddenly. He huffed a little breath, not quite a laugh. "That's your question?" I'm trying not to stare at the guns, I whispered. Humor me. He shifted slightly, turning his body toward me. His left forearm was bare, ink curling over muscle, dark lines, shapes I didn't fully understand. This one, he said, tracing a line with his own finger, is for my mother's village. The mountains. The river. I left it when I was 16 and never went back, so I keep it here. And the one on your chest? The memory of my hand on his skin last time made my face heat. He saw it. Didn't comment. Family crest, he said. The one on my back is mistakes. Mistakes? I echoed. Names. Dates, he said. Things I don't want to forget, even when I wish I could. My heart twisted. And the one on your finger? I asked softly. Leanna said it was special. He looked at his hand, the ink that circled one finger like a permanent ring. It's a promise, he said at last. To who? To myself. His eyes found mine. That I'd never put a ring on for business only. That if I ever got married, it wouldn't just be another contract. My breath caught. You broke that, I said, voice small. Did I? He asked quietly. We held each other's gaze. I thought of the way he'd moved the wedding, the way he dragged me into this safe room, the way his hand wrapped around mine, like the world could explode upstairs, and he'd still be holding on down here. Feels like a contract, I whispered, even as my body leaned slightly toward him. Feels like more than that to me, he said. Another pop echoed faintly through the feed. My shoulders jumped before I could stop them, he noticed. Without a word, he lifted his arm and settled it around my shoulders, drawing me gently against his side. My head found his chest like it had been waiting for that exact place. I've got you, he murmured. The steady thump of his heartbeat under my ear slowly dragged my own into rhythm. My fingers curled into his shirt, holding on. You said something earlier, I said after a while, voice muffled against him. Earn me. I did. How? I asked. How do you think you can do that when half of my life feels like it was decided without me in the room? His fingers traced slow, absent circles on my upper arm. I can't change the way this started, he said. I can't change what your father did, or what mine did, or the fact that our names were written next to each other on a piece of paper before you ever saw my face. He paused. But I can choose what comes after, he said. I can choose to listen when you're scared, to tell you the truth, even when it's ugly, to put your safety before my ego, to make sure that if anyone ever tries to use you as leverage again, they learn they picked the wrong woman and the wrong husband. The word husband wrapped around my ribs. And if I never love you, I whispered. His hand stilled on my arm. If you never love me, he said slowly, I'll still keep you alive. I'll still protect you. I'll still make sure this house feels less like a prison and more like a place you can breathe. I pulled back enough to see his face. Why? His eyes softened. Because I've already killed enough things to sleep badly at night. I don't need to add your happiness to the list. Something hot stung my eyes. That's a very dramatic way of saying you care, I said. He huffed out a quiet sound that almost was a laugh. I told you, I don't talk like a normal person. We sat like that for a long time. His arm around me, my head on his chest. The danger above us slowly fading as reports came in. Intruders gone, no more shots, perimeter secured. At some point, my eyes drifted shut. The adrenaline crash hit, heavy and sudden. My last clear thought was that I shouldn't fall asleep on him, that this was too intimate, too much, too soon. But his fingers were still stroking my arm, his heartbeat steady under my ear, his warmth wrapping around me like a shield. I surrendered to sleep anyway. Because for the first time in a long time, the scariest thing wasn't the danger outside. It was how safe I felt in the arms of the man everyone had warned me about. I woke up with my cheek against Brennon's chest, and his arm wrapped around me like he decided, even in sleep, that I wasn't allowed to drift more than an inch away. For a moment, I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just listened to the steady beat of his heart under my ear and let myself pretend, just for a few seconds, That we were a normal couple hiding from a thunderstorm, not a mafia husband, and his arranged bride hiding from people who wanted to use me as leverage. But then memory slammed back. The bomb, the gunshots, the shadow in the garden, his arm pulling me close in the safe room, his voice in my hair. I've got you. I shifted a little, and that was all it took to break whatever fragile piece we'd slipped into. His hold tightened, muscles flexing under my cheek, and he woke instantly. Sharp inhale, tension rolling through him like a wave. His eyes found mine. No confusion, no softness, just awareness, entire and immediate. You slept, he murmured. You did too, I whispered. He let out a low sound. Not really. He sat up, and I followed, trying not to stare at the way his shirt clung to his chest. He draped it over me last night when I shivered. Now it smelled like him, clean, dark cologne and something faintly smoky. He rubbed his hands over his face. I need to check the footage again. Oh! I looked down at my lap. Right. Fae. He waited until I met his eyes. You did nothing wrong yesterday, or the day before, or the night before that. A lump formed in my throat. Then why do I feel like I'm the reason all of this is happening? You're not the reason, he said. You're the target. That doesn't make me feel better. It wasn't meant to. He stood and offered his hand. I hesitated, but only for a second. I put my hand in his. He pulled me up gently, his thumb brushing my palm before he let go, like he didn't want to, but forced himself anyway. We left the safe room. The house was too quiet when we walked into the main hall. Quiet in a wrong way. Like people were whispering about things they didn't want me to hear, or like everyone was waiting for Brennon to give an order he hadn't given yet. Liana found us first. She rushed over, eyes wide. Thank God. You're okay. I'm fine, I said, though my voice shook slightly. Her gaze darted to Brennon. You should have woken me. You were safe, he said simply. That's what mattered. And her? She asked, nodding at me. His expression hardened. Don't start, Liana, she sighed. You two are impossible. Then she hugged me. Again, like I wasn't a security risk, just her sister-in-law who'd had a terrifying night. You're with us now, she whispered. We protect our own. My chest tightened. Brennon cleared his throat. I need to meet with Arturo. Stay with Liana. I opened my mouth to argue. He saw it coming and lifted a brow, waiting. I shut my mouth. He smirked, just barely. Then he walked away, men falling into step behind him. When he disappeared around a corner, Liana guides me into the sitting room and shut the door behind us. You okay? She asked, sitting close beside me on the couch. I think so, I said. Just overwhelmed. She nodded sympathetically. Welcome to the family. That made me huff out a tiny breath. But then her expression changed, softened, turned, worried. Faye, I didn't tell Brennon this, but someone approached me last week. My blood chilled. What do you mean? At a charity event, she said. A man I didn't recognize. He asked about you. Asked if you were obedient, if you were valuable, if you were the type to make Brennon weak. The room tilted. What did you say? I whispered. That I don't talk to strangers about my family, she said firmly, and I walked away. But he watched me the entire night. Do you think he was with the people who attacked the house? Liana nodded slowly. I do. My pulse sped. She hesitated, then added, and this wasn't the first time I've heard your name from people who shouldn't know it. A cold dread slid down my spine. Who? I asked. Liana exhaled. The Adriano family. The name hit me like a bucket of ice. No, I breathed. No, that can't. They've been asking about you for a long time, she said softly. Long before you were promised to Brennon. Long before he ever saw your picture. The room spun. They want you, Liana said. For something. I don't know what. I closed my eyes. The Adriano family was one of the most vicious mafia houses in the country. Ruthless, unpredictable, always hungry for territory. If they wanted me, then marriage wasn't protection. It was war. Okay, pause with me. Before I tell you what happened when Brennon found out the Adrianos were sniffing around me, the way he reacted, the way his voice changed, tell me something. Where are you listening from? Your city, your country. Drop it in the comments, then come back, because Brennon didn't just get angry. He got dangerous. He found me in the sitting room a few minutes later. One look at my face and he froze. What happened? Liana stepped between us. Brennon. What happened? His voice dropped, calm but lethal. I swallowed. Someone asked Liana about me last week. His jaw flexed. Who? A man she didn't know. He asked if I was obedient, valuable, the type to make you weak. His eyes went dead cold. And there's more, I whispered. Liana said the Adriano family has been asking about me, even before you and I were engaged. Something snapped in him. Not visibly, not loudly, but deeply, silently, like steel bending under too much pressure. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then he turned to Arturo, who had appeared in the doorway at the worst possible time. Double the guards, Brennon said softly. Inside and out. Done, Arturo said immediately. And find out who she talked to at that event. Brennon continued. I want a name, a face, a motive. Arturo nodded and left. Brennon stepped toward me. Slowly, controlled, like he was fighting the urge to tear the room apart. You're not leaving my sight, he said again, this time in a voice that scraped across my skin. I already wasn't, I whispered. He stopped inches in front of me. Fae, he said quietly, too quietly. You don't understand what Adriano wants. What does he want? I whispered. He clenched his jaw. Me. Weak. My breath hitched. And what makes you weak? I asked. His eyes locked onto mine. You. The word punched the air from my lungs. He lifted his hand slowly, brushing a thumb across my cheek. Not possessive, not controlling. Tender. Terrifying. And they know it, he murmured. I shook my head. I'm not your weakness. He leaned in slightly, his breath warm against my skin. You are, he said, and that scares me more than anything outside these walls. My heart stuttered. His voice softened. I don't lose things that are mine. I'm not a thing, I whispered. I know, he breathed. That's why I can't lose you. My pulse thrummed. His hand slid from my cheek to the back of my neck, fingers splaying gently, grounding me. We end this, he said. The threat, the questions, the shadows, all of it. I'll burn down the Adriano family if I have to. Brennon, he shook his head. No, listen, they picked a fight with the wrong family, and the wrong husband. My stomach flipped. Husband, I echoed, his gray eyes burned. Say it again, he murmured. I swallowed. Husband. He closed his eyes briefly, like the word did something to him. When he opened them again, the danger was still there. But so was something else. Something warmer. Something I wasn't ready to name. But it filled the space between us. Thick and electric, making my breath shake. He stepped even closer. Fae, he murmured. Stay with me. Don't run. Don't hide. Don't pull away. My voice trembled. Okay. Say it again, he whispered. Okay, I breathed. His forehead rested against mine, his breath brushing my lips. And in that moment, with danger pressing against the walls of the house and his hands holding me like a promise, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't the man I'd been told he was. He wasn't cold. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't vicious. He was a wildfire trying not to burn me and failing. And God help me, I was starting to want the flames. I didn't mean to scream at him. I didn't mean for all the fear and jealousy and confusion inside me to burst out like something feral. But Brennon had a way of pulling the truth out of me without even trying. It started in his office. He'd just come back from a meeting with Arturo. Face tight, jaw locked, tension radiating off him like heat. He didn't even look at me when he walked in, just tossed his phone onto the desk and braced both hands on the wood. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're avoiding me again." "I'm not," he muttered. "Then look at me." He didn't. Something in me snapped. "You can't keep doing this. Pull me in 1 second, shut me out the next, then act like I'm supposed to guess how you feel." "I'm protecting you." "No," I said sharply. "You're protecting yourself from me." His head lifted, gray eyes burning. "What is that supposed to mean?" "That you're terrified," I said. "Terrified of feeling anything from me. Terrified that wanting me makes you weak. Terrified because if the world finds out I matter to you, they'll use me against you." The silence after that felt like a held breath between us. Then he stood straight, slow, controlled. "Fae," he said, voice low, "you don't get to tell me what I'm afraid of. I'm living it." I shot back. "Every time you walk away from me." His jaw clenched. "I walk away so I don't take what isn't mine. I am yours." I whispered, shocking even myself. "You said that." His eyes flicked to my mouth. Everything inside me tightened. "And last night," I said, breath shaking, "you held me like I was the only thing keeping you alive. Don't pretend that didn't mean something." He stepped toward me. One slow, lethal step. "Say it again," he murmured. "Say I held you." "You did." "Say it mattered." "It did." His breath hitched, and then he whispered something that poured gasoline over every raw nerve in my body. "Then why are you running from me now?" "I'm not running," I said. He kept coming closer. "Then what are you doing?" I swallowed hard. "Breaking." His eyes softened. Just barely. Enough to undo something in me. "And wanting," I whispered. "That did it." His control snapped like a thread pulled too tight. He grabbed my waist, not rough, not gentle, just desperate, and pulled me against him. My breath caught as heat slammed through me, sharp and dizzying. His hand slid up my sides, fingers splaying across my ribs. "Fae," he breathed, like my name was a prayer and a warning. I lifted my face to his. "Then kiss me!" His jaw flexed like he was holding on by a thread. "Don't ask me for things you don't understand," he whispered. I took his hand, placed it over my racing heart. "Then teach me." His breath trembled. And then he kissed me. God. His mouth crashed onto mine like he'd been starving for weeks. The kiss wasn't slow or patient. This was hunger, sharp and deep, years of restraint unraveling in seconds. I made a sound I didn't recognize, fingers flying into his hair. He groaned when I tugged. His hands gripped my waist, pulling me up onto my toes, dragging me closer until not a breath could fit between us. My pulse thundered against his chest, wild and unsteady. He walked me backward. We hit the wall with a soft thud. His body pressed into mine, pinning me in a way that made my knees go weak. His mouth moved to my neck, kissing down the line of my throat. My breath hitched, embarrassingly loud. His lips curved against my skin. "You're shaking." "Because of you," I whispered. His fingers slid into my hair, tilting my head back so he could kiss the hollow beneath my ear. A soft, helpless sound spilled from me. "I dreamt about you," he murmured against my neck. "Every night since that bar." "You think I forgot the way you tasted?" Heat tore through me. "My hands remember," he whispered, sliding one palm down to grip my hip, pulling me against him. I gasped softly. "My mouth remembers," he said, kissing the curve of my jaw. I threaded my fingers into his hair, pulling him back to my lips. He kissed me again, harder, deeper, like he wanted to rewrite the memory of that first night. He lifted me slightly, letting my back press higher on the wall, his hips still flush to mine. His hands were everywhere, my waist, my ribs, the back of my neck, my lower back, like he couldn't decide where he needed me most. "Tell me this is your choice," he breathed against my lips. "Not fear, not anger, not loneliness. Choice." I cupped his face, forcing him to look at me. "I choose you." Something flickered across his eyes. Pain, relief, hunger, all tangled. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, like he wanted to feel the words on my tongue. Everything inside me melted. My hands slid down to his shoulders, fingers dragging over the tattoos there. His breath caught, chest rising sharply. I felt the shift in him, the way control turned into want. He pressed his forehead to mine. Fae, don't stop. I might not be gentle, he warned. I don't need gentle, I whispered. I need you. A low groan rumbled in his chest. His hands gripped my thighs, lifting me just enough so I could feel the strength in him, the heat, the raw need he'd been hiding. My breath came out in a shaky rush as his thumbs stroked the inside of my legs. His mouth found mine again, slow but hungry. My back arched, my fingers digging into his shoulders. He kissed me like he was trying to remember every taste, every sound, every breath. Then his lips trailed down my throat, kissing lower, making my pulse race. I held on to him, breath breaking against his shoulder. Tell me, he whispered against my skin, that this is real. It is. Tell me you want me. I want you, I whispered, voice shaking with truth. He groaned, head dropping to my shoulder. You're going to ruin me. You're already ruining me. I breathed. He pulled back enough to look me in the eyes. This isn't about last night anymore, he said quietly. Or the deal. Or your father. This is you. Choosing. I know, I whispered. Say it again. I choose you. He kissed me like the words broke him open. I wrapped my legs around his waist, holding him close, letting him hold me up against the wall. His breath was hot against my neck. His hands slid up my back, fingers pressing into my skin, grounding me. We stayed like that. Bodies. Pressed together, breathing hard, kissing like we were trying to fuse the pieces of two broken lives into one. It wasn't a fairy tale, it wasn't safe, it wasn't sweet, it was messy. Raw, human, dangerous, and it was mine. He rested his forehead against my collarbone, chest heaving. If anything happens to you, his voice broke into gravel. I won't survive it. I cupped the back of his neck gently. Nothing's happening to me. His arms tightened around me. Not while I'm breathing. I believed him. God help me. I believed him, and I held him tighter, not because I was scared of the danger outside the walls, but because for the first time since this marriage began, the danger inside my heart felt bigger, stronger, and I didn't want to run from it anymore. They took me the first time Brennon wasn't watching me. It wasn't his fault. That's the worst part. He'd done everything, doubled the guards, changed the patrol routes, kept me in his line of sight like I was the center of a target only he could see. But even he couldn't be everywhere, every second. And the Adriano family knew it. It was late afternoon when it happened. Liana had dragged me out to the back terrace overlooking the gardens, insisting I needed fresh air that didn't smell like testosterone and gun oil. The sky was soft and hazy, the kind of light that made everything look gentler than it really was. A few of Brennon's men stood by the doors, weapons discreet, eyes sharp. I hate this, I told Liana, hugging my arms around myself. Being watched all the time. I know, she said, looping her arm through mine. But Brennon's losing his mind, trying to keep you breathing, so maybe let him overdo it a little? I rolled my eyes, but I didn't argue. A maid stepped out onto the terrace, carrying a tray with iced tea and little pastries. She kept her head down, dark hair in a bun, plain black dress. Something about her tugged at my memory, but I couldn't place it. Liana smiled. Thank you, Mara. The maid didn't look up. Of course, Senora. Her voice was wrong. Too low. Too tight. I frowned. Have we met before? I asked. Many times, she said without hesitation. In the kitchen. I shook my head slowly. No. I would remember you. She finally lifted her face. She wasn't Mara. The moment my brain caught up, I saw it all at once. The wig, the contact lenses, The way her hands were too steady for someone just carrying refreshments. The faint outline under her dress where a weapon could be strapped. I opened my mouth. I didn't get a sound out. She moved fast, so fast my eyes barely tracked it. The tray clattered to the stone with a crash of glass and ice as she grabbed me, something sharp pressing into my side. "Don't scream," she whispered in my ear, "or I gut you before they can aim." Liana's eyes went huge. "Fae!" "Stay back," the woman snarled, "unless you want to watch her bleed." The guards reached for their guns, but they froze when the woman shifted, pressing the blade harder into my ribs. Cold burned through my thin shirt. "Lower them," she ordered. "Now!" My heart hammered so hard I almost couldn't hear anything. One of the guards spoke urgently into his radio. "Boss, we've got a situation." "Drop it," she hissed, "or I stab her and run. Your call." They lowered their weapons. The world narrowed to that sting at my side and the woman's breath hot against my ear. "Walk," she murmured, "through the side gate." "There is no side gate," I said shakily. She laughed once. "Not for you. For me? There is." Liana stepped forward, shaking. "Take me instead. I'm his blood." The woman's grip tightened on me. "We don't want his blood," she said. "We want his weakness." My vision blurred. I was the weakness. Of course I was. "Move," she ordered. She dragged me backward, toward the far edge of the terrace, keeping me angled so the guards didn't have a clean shot. Every step dug the blade deeper. "Brennon won't let you get far," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "You know that." She smiled against my ear. "That's the point." We reached a section of the hedge I'd never really looked at before, just a wall of green. The woman pressed something into the foliage. Metal clicked. A narrow panel in the stone shifted, revealing a small service gate. My stomach dropped. They had napped this place. They had an inside man. Or woman. "Say goodbye, Mrs. Farmagio," she whispered. I didn't even have time to scream her name. They pulled me through the gap. The world went black as a hood came down over my head. Hold on. Before I tell you what it felt like when the van door slammed shut, the moment I realized they weren't just going to threaten me, they were going to use me, do something for me. Tell me, do you think Brennon is finally in love or just obsessed? Wherever you are while I'm tied up in the dark with a target on my back, type it in the comments, because if you're still with me after this, you're officially riding in that van too. Hands shoved me forward. My knees hit metal. Someone grabbed my wrists, wrenching my arms behind my back. Rough cord bit into my skin. "Too tight," I gasped. "Good," a male voice said. "Maybe you'll remember it." The hood muffled everything, turning the sounds into a messy blur. The engine roared to life. The floor vibrated under me as the van lurched forward. Panic clawed at my throat. I tried to breathe. In, out, in, out. I tried to remember what Brennon had said in the safe room. About pressure points. About not freezing. Don't be bait. Be a problem. "Who are you?" I forced out. "Adriano?" No one answered. "So that's a yes," I said. "Cowards." Someone laughed. A harsh, unpleasant sound. "You've got a mouth." I swallowed. "You're making a mistake." "Funny," another man said. "Brennon Farmagio's enemies say that a lot." I dug my nails into my palms. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing, pretty girl," the first one said. "What we want is what he'll do for you." My stomach twisted. "You think he'll trade for me? Give you power? Territory? He won't." "He'll come," the man said. "That's all we need." The van jerked. I slid sideways, my shoulder slamming into the metal wall. Pain flared. "Think, Fae. Think." I shifted my wrists, testing the rope. It scraped my skin raw, but there was a little give. Not much. "Stop moving," someone snapped. A foot nudged my thigh. "We weren't told to deliver you in pieces." I forced myself too still. Minutes dragged like hours. No windows, no idea where we were going. My mind did the thing it always did when I was scared. It tried to escape. I thought of Brennon. His hands in my hair, his mouth on mine, his whisper, "I want to earn you." The way he'd held me in the safe room, heartbeat under my cheek. The way his eyes had gone cold when he found out the Adriano family wanted me. He was going to lose his mind when he realized I was gone. Guilt stabbed through me, sharp and sudden. I had promised, "Stay with me. Don't run. Don't hide. Don't pull away." Okay. And now, I was gone. The van slowed. Gravel crunched under the tires. The engine cut off. Doors opened. Cool air rushed in, carrying the smell of damp concrete and oil. Hands grabbed me again, dragging me out. My feet hit rough ground, small stones biting into my soles. I stumbled, hood still over my head. "He's gonna be watching," someone muttered behind me. "Good," another voice said. "That's why the cameras are already set up." They marched me forward, footsteps echoing now. A warehouse, I guessed. Big and empty and perfect for things no one wanted to witness. They stopped. The hood ripped off. Harsh fluorescent lights stabbed my eyes. I blinked hard. Vision swimming until shapes came into focus. Concrete floor. Steel beams. Stacks of crates. And in front of me, sitting on a folding chair like this, was all boring business. Luca Adriano. I recognized him from photos in my father's office. Dark hair slicked back. Handsome in a cold, reptile way. Expensive suit. Smile like a knife. "Fae Trintiano," he said, like he was savoring the syllables. Or should I say, Fae Farmagio now. "Don't call me that," I said before I could stop myself. He smirked. "Touchy." My wrists were still bound behind my back. One of his men shoved me to my knees. Pain flared up my legs. "You've been very hard to reach," Luca said, leaning forward slightly. "Your father hid you away like a treasure. And then Brennon locked you up even tighter." "I'm not a treasure," I said. "I'm a person." "You're leverage," he corrected. The word made my stomach churn. "What do you want?" I asked. He studied me, eyes cold. "Power is a simple thing, Faye. You twist the right pressure point, and the whole body moves." "You think I'm Brennon's pressure point?" I said. His smile sharpened. "Aren't you?" Heat rose in my face, anger cutting through the fear. "You're wrong about him." "Am I?" he mused. "Let's find out." He nodded at the man near the far wall. A camera blinked to life. A laptop sat on a crate, screen already open. A video call icon glowing. "We sent your husband a message," Luca said. "He should be joining us any second." My heart tripped. "No," I breathed. Luca tilted his head. "You don't want him to see you like this?" I glared. "I don't want him walking into your trap." Luca's smile grew. "He will. Because men like Brennon only value two things. Power, and the things that can take it away from them." The laptop chimed. The screen lit up. My heart stopped. Brennon's face appeared. Eyes stormy, jaw tight, rage barely leashed. He saw me on my knees, hands bound, a bruise forming on my arm where they'd grabbed me. His expression went from furious to murderous. "Faye," he said, voice low, dangerous. "Are you hurt?" "No," I whispered. "Not yet." Luca stepped into frame, blocking some of Brennon's view. "Nice to see you, Farmagio." Brennon's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. "If you touch her." "Relax," Luca said. "We're just talking. For now." He hooked a finger under my chin, lifting my face toward the camera. I jerked away. "Don't touch her," Brennon said, voice gone so soft it was terrifying. Luca chuckled. "Interesting. The rumors were true then." "What do you want?" Brennon asked. Each word was a bullet. "Oh, nothing much," Luca said. "Territory, trade routes, A little slice of your empire. Or, his gaze flicked down to me. We carve our message into something you care about. Fear flashed white hot through me. I shook my head minutely at the camera. Don't do it, I whispered. Don't give him anything. Luca raised a brow. She's telling you to be brave. How sweet. Brennon's eyes didn't leave mine. I'm coming for you, Luca laughed. You don't know where we are. He did something on his end. The camera jerked as someone picked up the laptop and swung it around. For a split second, it showed the warehouse ceiling, rusted beams, distinct pattern of stains. Then it cut off. The call dropped. Luca snapped the laptop shut. Oops, he said lightly. Guess we lost him. My pulse raced. You made a mistake, I said, my voice shaking but steady enough. You shouldn't have let him see anything. He smiled without warmth. We showed him exactly what we wanted him to see. He grabbed my hair, fingers tangling, not as gentle as Brennon had ever been. Pain flashed across my scalp. You hurt her. You don't get what you want, one of his men murmured uneasily. Luca released me with a shove, letting me sag back to my knees. Relax. I'm not a savage. Not today. We only need her scared, not broken. Too late, I thought. I was both. He turned his back on me, talking quietly with his men near the crates. Planning. Deciding how to use me. They thought I was helpless. They were half right. I was terrified. But Brennon had taught me something, even in the short time we'd been forced together. How to look, listen, memorize. I scanned the space. One main door. One side door. A stack of crates tall enough to climb. 3 cameras. 4 men. Luca. A tattoo on one man's neck. Snake. Curling around a dagger. Same as the guy who'd bumped into Liana at that charity event. Pieces clicked together in my brain. Pressure points. Move the right one. Everything shifts. The main door rattled. Everyone froze. One of the men cursed. We weren't expecting. The door exploded inward. Smoke and noise and chaos filled the warehouse. I hit the floor instinctively, heart in my throat. Through the haze, through the shouting, through the shock, one sound cut through everything. Fae! Brennon. He moved like a storm in human form. Dark suit, eyes burning, gun steady. His men flooded in behind him, shouting commands. Shots cracked the air, sharp and terrifying. Someone grabbed for me. I jerked away, rolling awkwardly to the side, rope biting my wrists. Then Brennon was there. He dropped to his knees in front of me, one arm already wrapping around me, pulling me in. His other hand still held the gun, aimed, ready, using his body as a shield. Are you hurt? He demanded, scanning my face, my arms. I'm okay, I choked out. I'm okay. He cursed under his breath, a raw, vicious sound of relief and fury. Then he shouted over his shoulder, Get Adriano! But Luca was already gone, slipping out the side door like the snake he was. Brennon holstered his gun and yanked a knife from his belt, slicing through the ropes at my wrists. The moment my hands were free, I threw my arms around his neck. He hauled me up against him, standing in one powerful motion, holding me as if I weighed nothing. I told you, he growled into my hair, voice shaking. I don't lose what's mine. I clung to him, my whole body trembling. And as he carried me out of that warehouse, past his men, past the lingering smoke and echoes of gunfire, one thought beat in my chest, fierce and undeniable. He came for me. Not because of a contract, not because of an alliance, not because of a deal. Because I was his. And I had chosen him. I didn't realize I was shaking until Brennon carried me into the mansion and the lights hit us. The chandelier glow, the polished floors, the familiar hallway I thought I'd never see again. His boots thudded against the marble, his grip iron tight around me, like if he loosened even slightly I'd disappear all over again. Put me down, I whispered, but my voice didn't sound like mine. No, he said, breath ragged, not yet. He carried me straight past the guards, past Liana's wide-eyed gasp, past Arturo barking orders. He didn't speak to anyone. Didn't acknowledge a single soul. He took me upstairs. To our room. Not mine. Ours. He kicked the door shut behind us and set me on the edge of the bed with a gentleness that made my throat close. For a moment, he just stood there, chest heaving, hands fisted at his sides, eyes storming over every inch of me. Like he needed to see me whole to believe it. "Brennon." He dropped to his knees, right in front of me, gray eyes lifting to mine, full of something I'd never seen on his face before. Fear. Not for himself, for me. "Let me look at you," he said quietly. His hands, those strong, dangerous hands, moved to my arms first, tracing where the rope had bruised me. His jaw locked as he examined the marks. "They hurt you?" he murmured. "No," I whispered. "Not really." He looked up sharply. "Fae, sweetheart, don't protect them." I swallowed. "I'm not. They didn't touch me the way you're thinking." His shoulders eased, but only slightly. The tension in him was still a living thing. He continued checking me, inch by inch, my ribs, my wrists, my neck. His fingers brushed my skin slowly, reverently, as though he were trying to erase every moment I'd spent in that warehouse. His touch burned with something raw, not lust, not rage, something deeper. He stopped at my wrists, thumb stroking over the raw rope burns. His expression cracked, just a little. "Fae," he whispered, "I could have lost you." "You didn't," I whispered. "I'm right here." He leaned forward until his forehead pressed against my knees. His hands slid around my legs, holding on like he needed the confirmation of touch to stay grounded. "I'm going to kill him," he murmured against my skin. "I swear to God, I'm going to." "No," I said softly. "Not right now. Not while you're like this." He lifted his head, and that's when I saw it. The thing he'd been holding back. The thing he never let anyone see. His eyes were wet. Just barely. Just enough. And that broke me more than the kidnapping ever could. "Come here," I whispered. He stood, slowly, like he wasn't sure his legs would hold. I scooted back on the bed. He sat beside me, his body still vibrating with tension. I reached for his hands. He let me take them. Huge, warm, trembling. I'd never thought I'd see him tremble. "Talk to me," I said. "I can't," he rasped. "Yes, you can." He shook his head once, sharply. "If I start, I won't stop." "Then don't stop." His eyes closed. A breath shuddered out of him. And then, you were gone. The words tore out of him like they were ripping through muscle. "You were gone," he repeated, voice breaking. And every second I couldn't find, you felt like someone was cutting pieces out of me. My throat tightened. "Brennon, I pictured you dead." His voice cracked. "Every possibility. Every nightmare. Every way they could have taken you from me." He dragged a hand through his hair, shaking his head like he was still stuck back in that warehouse. I kicked down that door and I thought I was too late. I thought I was going to walk in and find. His breath snapped. He broke off. I moved closer, sliding my hands to his face. His skin was warm, rough with stubble, trembling under my palms. "I'm alive," I whispered. "I'm here. I'm not leaving you." His eyes opened, and I swear I'd never seen anything more raw than the emotion in them. "You don't get to say that," he murmured. "Not after you disappeared in front of my men. Not after you were in that warehouse on your knees while Adriano put his hands on you." "He didn't," I said, quickly. "He tried," Brennon snapped, jaw tightening. "He touched you. That's enough." "He only grabbed my chin. You've grabbed my chin." His nostrils flared. "Not like that." I swallowed as the truth settled between us. "You thought you lost me," I said softly. "I did lose you," he murmured. "For hours. Hours where I couldn't breathe. Hours where all I could see was you tied up in some dark room wondering why I wasn't there." His voice broke again, and that was when I reached for him, pulled him into my arms. He came willingly, folding into me in a way I knew he'd never allow in front of anyone else. He buried his face in my neck, arms tightening around my waist like a man clinging to the only thing keeping him alive. I stroked my fingers through his hair, slow and soft. "You found me," I whispered. "You always do." "You don't understand," he whispered into my skin. "This isn't strategy, or marriage, or alliances. This is—" He stopped. "Say it." I breathed. His hands gripped my waist, sliding up my back, pulling me impossibly closer. "This is you," he murmured. "It's always you." My breath hitched. The room felt too small for the way his words settled inside me. Warm and heavy and terrifying. I pressed my forehead to his. "I'm yours." His breath stopped. "Don't say that unless you mean it," he whispered. "I do." "Fae, I chose you," I said. "I choose you every time." His hands cupped my face. His thumb traced my lower lip. His voice shook when he spoke. "I can't lose you," he murmured. "Not now. Not ever." Pause. Before I tell you what he confessed next, the thing that changed everything, the thing he'd never admitted out loud, tell me something. What you think Brennon felt when he found Fae was gone. Tell me, then come back. Because what Brennon said next wasn't anger or threat or promise. It was truth. His forehead rested against mine, his breath mingling with mine. "You asked me once why I didn't want this marriage," he said softly. I nodded. "You said it was business." "It wasn't," he said. "It was fear." I blinked. "Fear?" "I didn't want a wife," he murmured. "Not in this world, not with my enemies, not with my name. I never wanted someone tied to me who could get hurt because of it." His thumb brushed my cheek. "But then you walked into that bar," he continued, voice barely above a whisper. "And I thought, God help me, I thought you were a mistake I wanted to make." Heat rushed through me. "And when I realized who you were," he said, "I knew I was already gone." "Gone?" "Gone for you." The word stole the air from my lungs. My hands trembled as I touched his jaw. "Brennon, I can't lose you," he repeated, quieter this time. "So from now on, you don't walk alone. You don't breathe alone. You don't step outside without me." "That sounds like a prison," I whispered. "No," he said, voice shaking. "It's protection." "But what if I want the kind of protection that comes with trust? Not surveillance?" His eyes softened. Slowly, carefully, he slid his hand down and laced his fingers with mine. "Then I'll learn trust," he said, "even if I don't know how." Something warm spread through my chest. He leaned forward, brushing his lips against my hairline. "You're not leverage," he whispered. "You're not a tool. You're the only thing in this life that feels like it could save me." I swallowed. "I don't want to save you." He stiffened slightly. "I want to stay with you," I said into his chest. "Because I want to. Because I choose to. Not because I'm trapped." His arms wrapped around me again, fierce and aching. "I don't deserve that," he murmured. I rested my head against his shoulder. "Then earn it." His breath shook against my skin. "I will," he said. "Every day." I closed my eyes. For the first time since the nightmare started, I felt something settle inside me. Not safety, not certainty, but something close. Something like trust. Something like the beginning of love. I knew something was wrong the moment Brennon stepped out of the shower and froze with a towel around his waist. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. Once, twice, 3 times. Rapid. Urgent. The screen flashed with Arturo's name. A cold shiver slid down my spine. Brennon answered with a sharp, "What?" He listened. And as the seconds passed, his expression changed, tightened, darkened into that lethal calm that always made my pulse spike with fear. He put the phone down slowly. "What is it?" I whispered. His gaze met mine, and the truth was already in his eyes. "They're coming." My stomach dropped. "Here?" "No." He dragged on jeans and a black shirt in fast, efficient motions. "They're moving to hit one of our ports." Adriano picked the one he thinks is the weakest? It's not. But he thinks it is. Because you made it seem that way, I realized. He nodded once. He wants me to scramble. He wants me distracted, vulnerable. And me? I asked, swallowing hard. His eyes softened in a way that nearly broke me. He won't get near you, I stood. Brennon. I need to go, he said. I need to end this. A hollow ache opened inside my chest. Then, I'm going with you. His jaw tightened. No. You took me from that warehouse, I whispered. You held me like I was your whole world, and now you want to leave me behind? This isn't about leaving you, he said. This is about keeping you alive. I stepped close, placing my hands on his chest. I'm not made of glass. Fae. His voice broke on my name. I can't focus if you're there. They know that. They'll use that. But you going alone is worse. He hesitated. For the first time since I met him, he looked unsure. I slid my hand to his jaw, making him meet my eyes. I'm not asking to fight. I'm asking to stand with you. He exhaled slowly, brushing his thumb across my lower lip. You don't understand how much I want that. Then let me. He closed his eyes for one breath, then two. When he opened them again, there was a decision in them. But before he could speak, Arturo burst into the doorway. Boss, we're rolling out in 5. Brennon turned away from me. Get the cars ready. Arturo nodded and disappeared. Brennon faced me again, and he didn't tell me yes either. Instead, he placed his hands on my shoulders, steadying me, searching my eyes. Stay close to me, he said softly. Don't wander. Don't argue. And if something goes wrong, you'll protect me, I whispered. He shook his head. You protect yourself, he said. I'll handle everyone else. My heart clenched. Okay, I said. And that was it. That was the moment we stopped being strangers tied together by a contract and started being a team. Hold on. Before I tell you what happened when the shooting started, the moment Brennon reached for my hand and told me something I never expected. I know you're invested. You are still here. Thank you. Your time means a lot to me. What's your city? Your country? Drop it in the comments, then come back. Because what happens next changed everything. The port was already chaos when we arrived. Floodlights blazed over stacked shipping containers. Smoke drifted in thin ribbons through the night air. Men shouted orders into radios. Gunshots cracked in the distance. Arturo jogged up beside us. Adriano's men breached the south entrance. We pushed them back, but they've got numbers. Brennon nodded. We funneled them toward the north corridor. Forced them into the choke point. And Fae? Arturo asked carefully. She stays with me, Brennon said, voice unyielding. My heart stuttered at the way he said it. Like he wasn't arguing strategy, just stating fact. We ducked behind a steel container as bullets pinged off metal somewhere close. Why tonight? I asked, heart racing. Why now? Because he thinks you're shaken, Brennon said. He thinks your kidnapping rattled me enough to be sloppy. And did it? I whispered. Brennon turned to me, eyes dark and intense. Yes. I blinked. What? It rattled me, he said. I'm not pretending it didn't. But it didn't make me sloppy. His fingers brushed my cheek. It made me dangerous. Before I could respond, gunfire erupted nearby. We pressed ourselves behind a forklift. Brennon drew his weapon, checking the chamber. He glanced at me. You ready? No, I said honestly. He smiled. Only a flicker, but real. Good. Fear keeps you alive. He guided me behind him as we moved. Men ran past us, shouting warnings. The clang of metal and the sharp bite of smoke filled my senses. Then, movement at the far end of the lane. Figures. Armed. Get down, Brennon ordered. I crouched behind a stack of crates as Brennon stepped forward. Not recklessly. Purposefully. Controlled. The first attacker rounded the corner. Brennon fired once. The man went down. Adrenaline shot through me like lightning. 2 more appeared, guns raised. Brennon grabbed my hand, pulling me behind the container as shots rang out, metal sparking around us. "Stay close," he murmured. "I am." "Closer." I pressed against his back. His shoulders rose and fell with steady breaths. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't afraid. He was focused. And then, like the world slowed, Adriano himself emerged from the shadows, standing on top of a shipping crate with a gun in hand. Of all people, he was here. Luca smiled down at us like he was greeting guests at a party. "Farmagio," he called. "You brought your little wife. How sweet." Brennon stiffened, and something in me snapped. I stepped out from behind the crate. "Fae!" Brennon grabbed my arm, pulling me back. But my voice was already ringing across the port. "Is this what you do, Luca? Hide behind your men? Kidnap women? Threaten wives?" Luca's smile vanished. Brennon exhaled sharply behind me. "You stupid brave girl," he whispered under his breath. Luca lifted his gun. "You should keep her on a tighter leash," he called. "She's far too bold." "Bold," Brennon said, stepping in front of me again, "is exactly what I like about her." Luca froze for half a second, and in that half second, Brennon fired. The bullet clipped Luca's arm, sending him stumbling behind a crate. His men scrambled around him. Chaos exploded. "Move!" Brennon grabbed my hand and pulled me between 2 containers as gunfire erupted from both sides. We ducked behind a forklift again, hearts pounding. "That was reckless," Brennon said, breath harsh. "You weren't going to say anything." I shot back. "That's because I was trying not to get you killed." I grabbed his shirt, pulling him down to face me. "I'm not a weakness." His breath hitched. "You're not," he said. "You're the only thing that keeps me from becoming a monster." I blinked at him. "What?" His hand cupped my cheek. "You make me better," he said, "even when I don't want to be." Before I could process that, Arturo's voice came through Brennon's radio. "Boss, Adriano's retreating. South corridor is clear." Brennon closed his eyes briefly in relief. "It's over," he murmured. Then he looked at me. His eyes weren't stormy anymore. They were warm, fierce, vulnerable in a way that made my breath stop. "Fae." "Yes?" he exhaled. "When this is done, I want to ask you something." My heart pounded. "Ask me what?" He brushed a strand of hair off my face. "Something I should have asked from the beginning." Heat spread through my chest. "Brennon." But a flash of movement caught his eye. He grabbed me and pulled me down as one final shot rang out. Luca's last man had fired blindly before fleeing. The bullet hit the metal behind us with a crack. Brennon shielded me with his entire body, breath hot against my ear. "You okay?" he whispered urgently. "I'm fine," I breathed. "Are you?" "Yes." He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "But you nearly weren't." He pressed his forehead to mine. "This ends tonight," he whispered. "For good." I nodded. And as he pulled me to my feet, intertwining his fingers with mine, I felt something shift inside me. Something irrevocable. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was choosing each other. In danger. In fear. In chaos. Together. And whatever Brennon wanted to ask me after tonight, I already knew my answer. I thought Brennon was going to leave me. Not because he said it. Not because he did anything obvious. Because the morning after the port, after the smoke and shouting and gunfire, he disappeared. No note, no message. Just gone. I woke up alone in our bed, sunlight peeking through the curtains, the pillow beside me still warm with his scent. For a few seconds I lay there, listening for his footsteps, his voice, anything. Nothing. The house was too quiet when I slipped into the hallway. No sirens, no shouting, just low murmurs and the distant clink of dishes from the kitchen. My brain did what it always did when it didn't have information. It panicked. What if he left? What if last night was just adrenaline and heat and danger, and now that it was over, he'd gone back to being the man who saw me as a responsibility, not a choice? I found Liana at the bottom of the stairs, nursing a cup of coffee. She took one look at me and sighed. He didn't vanish. Calm down. I didn't say anything, I argued. You didn't have to. She tilted her head. You look like someone stole your favorite gun. I don't have a favorite gun, I muttered. Yet? She smirked, then sobered. He's outside, in the back. Go. My heart tripped. Is he okay? Yes, she said softly. Shaken, but okay. I hesitated. And Adriano? Handled, she said, a hard edge in her voice. Not dead. Not walking free either. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Liana reached out, squeezed my hand. He's waiting for you, Fae. Don't make him wait long. My chest tightened. I stepped out onto the back terrace. The gardens were quiet. No shadows in the hedges. No intruders. Just morning light and dew on the grass, and birds that didn't know they were sharing a sky with people who killed for a living. Brennon stood by the far fountain, back to me, sleeves rolled, hands braced on the stone edge. His head was bowed slightly. He looked tired. Smaller. Human. Brennon, I called softly. He turned. The second his eyes landed on me, something in his shoulders eased. Just a little. Enough to make my own muscles loosen. You're awake, he said. I thought you left. I blurted. His brows pulled together. Left where? I don't know, I admitted. Away. From me. From this. A muscle jumped in his jaw. I told you, I don't run from you. I swallowed. You promised you wanted to ask me something. I did. He wiped his palms on his slacks, like his hands were sweating. I still do. My heart stuttered. Okay. Come here, he said. I walked down the stone path toward him, my pulse beating in my throat. When I reached him, he didn't touch me right away. He just looked at me, like he was memorizing my face. You scared me, I whispered. You terrify me every day, he replied quietly. So we're even. I smiled, a tiny, shaky thing. He exhaled. The port is secure. Adriano's men have pulled back. He's contained. Contained how? I asked. Enough that he won't touch you again. His eyes darkened. He knows what happens if he tries. I believed him. Then why do you look like someone just ripped your heart out? I asked. Because I nearly lost you. Twice. His voice roughened. And it forced me to admit something I've been trying not to say. My breath caught. Say it. His gaze locked on mine. I don't want this marriage to be something that happened to you, he said. I don't want to be the man you were forced to stand beside. I don't want to be the monster you told a stranger about in a bar. You weren't a stranger, I whispered. You were already mine. I just didn't know it yet. His eyes softened. But I need you to know this, he said. If I could go back and change the way it started, the deal, the arrangement, the fear, I would. In a second. But I can't. The only thing I can change is what comes next. He slid his hand into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. My breath stopped. He opened it. The ring inside was simple. Thin band, clear stone, elegant and clean. Not loud. Not ostentatious. Beautiful. Fae Trintiano Farmagio, he said quietly, using all of my names. I'm asking you now, without your father, without my father, without a contract on the table, just me, just you. His voice shook. Will you marry me? He asked. For real. Because you choose me. Because you want me, not because anyone else decided we belong to each other. Okay, pause. Before I tell you what I said, the exact words I used, the way his face changed, the way my whole world tilted, do something for me. Tell me where you're listening from. Your city. Your country. I want to know exactly where you are when I say the words that changed everything for us. Ready? My vision blurred. You're already my husband, I whispered. I know, he said, legally, publicly, on paper. His eyes were so soft I could hardly stand it. But you didn't get a choice? Not really. I chose you in that bar, I said, stepping closer. Remember? His throat worked. You didn't know it was me. Did it matter? I challenged. Because it was still your hands, your mouth, your heart. You protected me before you ever told me your name. He swallowed hard. I lifted my hands to his chest, feeling his heartbeat pounding under my palms. I walked down that aisle terrified, I said. I thought I was walking toward a cruel, ugly, cold, vicious man. He flinched at my own words. But that was a lie someone else told me, I continued, softer. The man I see now? He's dangerous, yes. But he's also the man who held me in a safe room through gunfire. The man who came for me when I was tied up on a concrete floor. The man who dropped to his knees to check my bruises like they were carved into his own skin. My voice trembled. You're not a monster, Brennon, I whispered. You're my choice. His breathing hitched. I gently closed his fingers over the ring box. Ask me again, I said. His eyes locked on mine. Fae, he said, voice low and unsteady. Will you marry me? I smiled through the tears. Yes. His eyes closed briefly, like the word went straight through him. Yes, he repeated, like he needed to be sure. Yes, I said again, stronger. Yes, I'll marry you. Again. Always. His jaw trembled. He took the ring from the box with hands that weren't quite steady. I held out my left hand, fingers shaking. He slid the ring onto my finger, the metal cool against my skin. Then he lifted my hand to his mouth and kissed my knuckles, lingering. Something in my chest burst wide open. I touched the tattoo on his finger, the ink ring he'd carved into his skin long before he met me. You broke your promise, I said softly. You said you'd never wear a ring for business. He held my gaze. I didn't break it, I frowned. How? This stopped being business the night you walked into that bar, he said. I laughed, watery and disbelieving. You hated me that night. I hated losing control, he corrected. From the moment you opened your mouth, I never got it back. He leaned in. This kiss was nothing like the desperate ones in the office or the safe room. It was slow, careful, reverent. His hand slid up my arms, then around my waist, pulling me against him. My fingers tangled in his hair, tugging gently. He sighed into my mouth, the sound soft and full and so full of relief, it made my heart ache. When we finally broke apart, foreheads resting together, he whispered, We'll do it again. The proposal? I teased. You want 3? The wedding, he said. A real ceremony. Small. No deals. No audience we don't choose. Just you, me, Liana, a few people we trust. And your Nana's ravioli after? I asked. His mouth kicked up at the corner. Especially her ravioli. We got married again 2 weeks later. In a small chapel on the edge of the city, hidden behind stone walls and climbing ivy. No press. No photographers. No one who didn't know my laugh or his scars. Liana cried harder than I did. Arturo stood by the door, pretending not to watch us with suspiciously shiny eyes. I wore a simple dress, my hair loose, no veil this time. No heavy jewels. No weight I didn't choose. Brennon wore a black suit and the ring I'd bought him, a band that matched the ink on his finger, metal over tattoo, promise over promise. When the officiant asked if I took this man to be my husband, I didn't hesitate. I already did, I said, and everyone laughed softly, even Brennon. But yes, I added. 1,000 times yes. He slipped my ring back into place, his thumb brushing over it like he still didn't believe it was real. Later at the reception that was more like a family dinner, he pulled me onto the tiny dance floor in the middle of the garden. Fairy lights glowed overhead. Music floated softly in the warm air. He held me close, one hand on my waist, the other cradling my hand over his heart. Happy? He asked. I rested my head against his chest. For the first time in my life, I admitted. Yes. Good. His lips brushed my hair. Because I plan on giving you a lot more of this. Of what? Choice, he said simply. I smiled. We swayed like that under the lights, danger kept at bay for once, the world shrinking to just his heartbeat and my breathing and the way our fingers fit together. I thought about the girl who had walked into that bar, desperate and scared and angry, looking for one night she could claim as hers. I thought about the man who'd been waiting for her without knowing it. And as I stood there in Brennon's arms, his ring warm on my finger, his tattooed hand holding mine like it was the most important thing he'd ever touched, I realized something. The night I chose a stranger. I had been choosing him all along. And that night, this night, he stopped being my mistake. He became my home. 1 year later. If someone had told me a year ago that I'd end up here, bare feet on warm tile, coffee in hand, sunlight pouring through open balcony doors, I would have laughed or cried or run. But now the peace felt earned. Hard earned. I stood on the bedroom balcony watching Brennon in the gardens below. He wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled, dark slacks, no jacket, his version of relaxed. He was talking quietly with Arturo near the gate, giving orders in a low voice that still somehow carried across the roses and trimmed hedges. He looked calmer, softer, happy. I think I was the only one he let see that. The morning breeze lifted my hair. Birds chattered somewhere near the fountain. I took a slow sip of coffee, breathing in the scent of jasmine from the garden. Our home. Our life. Our choice. I heard footsteps behind me. A familiar weight pressed against my back, arms sliding around my waist. You're up early, Brennon murmured, his lips brushing the side of my neck. Someone left the bed cold. I teased. He huffed a soft laugh, burying his nose in my hair. Business never stops. It does today, I said. Your wife says so. His hands tightened on my waist. My wife wants my attention? Always. He turned me gently, his hands cupping my hips as he pulled me against him. His gray eyes softened the moment they landed on mine. That look alone could melt me. Dangerous man, gentle eyes, and a heart he only ever let me touch. You okay? He asked quietly, brushing a strand of hair off my cheek. More than okay. His brow lifted. More. I nodded, placing his hand over my stomach. He went perfectly still. Not breathing. Not blinking. Just still. Then his eyes snapped up to mine, wide and bright in something I'd never seen. Not fear. Not control. Not hunger. Wonder. Fae, he whispered. Are you? Yes, I said softly. We're pregnant. His breath broke out of him in a shaky exhale. Then he wrapped both arms around me and lifted me clean off the ground, spinning me in a way that made my laugh tear out of me. He kissed my neck, my cheek, my mouth, everywhere he could reach, like he couldn't decide where to start. Careful, I giggled, holding his shoulders. He froze instantly. Right, not too much. You're fragile. I'm pregnant, not breakable, I corrected. He kissed my forehead, voice still rough. You're both. I rolled my eyes, smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. He carried me inside like it was instinct, as if my feet were no longer allowed to touch the floor. He set me on the bed gently, so gently it made something warm swell in my chest. He sat beside me, his hand still on my stomach, thumb stroking circles like he was soothing someone already there. I didn't think I'd get this, he said quietly. What? A future, he murmured. A real one. A home that isn't guarded by fear. A family that isn't built on bargains. A wife who loves me. I touched his cheek. I do. His eyes softened. I know. He leaned in, kissing me slow and warm. Not the hungry kind that stole my breath, but the kind that settled deep, the kind that whispered you're safe, you're loved, you're mine. We lay back against the pillows, my head on his chest, his hand over my stomach. His breathing matched mine, slow and steady. What do you want? He asked, voice vibrating under my ear. Everything, I whispered. With you. He let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. You already have me. I know, I said, but I want the rest too. The rest? He echoed. A house full of loud mornings and quiet nights, I said. A baby with your eyes. A life that isn't about enemies or alliances. A happy ending. He kissed the top of my head. You already got the ending, I smiled. It doesn't feel like an ending. That's because it's the beginning, he murmured. Outside, the fountain splashed softly. A breeze lifted the curtains. Somewhere downstairs, Liana yelled at Arturo about breakfast. Life. Unusual. Messy. Ours. I traced Brennon's tattooed shoulder, the ink warm under my fingertips. We should tell your sister, he groaned. She'll scream. She'll cry first, I said. Then scream. Maybe we don't tell her today. You're scared of Liana? Terrified. I laughed into his chest. He tightened his arms around me, breathing me in. You happy, sweetheart? I closed my eyes. Yes, I whispered, more than I ever thought I could be. Good, he murmured, because I plan on giving you a lot more. A lot more what? He kissed the corner of my mouth. Everything. I smiled, and for once, the world outside our walls didn't feel dangerous. It felt distant. Small. Something we had survived, outgrown and left behind. Because love had replaced fear. Because choice had replaced fate. Because the man I once thought was a monster had become my home. I placed my hand over Brennon's, over our future growing quietly beneath my skin. Our beginning. Our family. Our forever. And for the first time in my life, I believed in happily ever after. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for spending your time with me, for listening, and for letting this story live in your imagination. Now tell me, what would you do if the stranger you chose turned out to be your groom? Do you think he was wrong for not telling her who he was, or right? And would you run from Brennon, or fall for him faster? Your opinion matters to me, and it helps YouTube share my stories with more people. So drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a dark mafia romance from me. I post new audiobooks every week, and each one is made just for you. Until next time, my loves, sleep lightly. You never know who's watching.